Part 1. The Golden Hour. For Orion, the day didn't begin with an alarm clock. It began with a sliver of early morning sun, the kind of light painters call the golden hour, filtering through the large window of his loft, gilding the dancing dust motes in the air. This was his ritual, a cherished quiet moment designed to awaken the purest inspiration. That light was a gentle nudge, the starting signal for a day that promised to be a symphony of creation. And this Tuesday was supposed to be a day of legendary focus. Orion was a painter, a storyteller of colors who built intricate worlds on canvas. Today, his objective was crystal clear, sketched in charcoal in a corner of his easel. Complete the heart of the phoenix. This was no ordinary detail. It was the soul of the masterpiece he was chasing, the moment the mythical bird would burst forth from the ashes. It was an image he had nurtured in his mind for weeks. He could almost feel the heat from its fiery plumage, hear the crackle of eternal sparks. He stood before the massive canvas at precisely 7:30 a.m. The scent of linseed oil and turpentine hung in the air, a fragrance both sharp and sweet. His palette was a miniature universe of potential. Tubes of paint were arranged neatly. Brushes of all sizes lay still, ready to obey his command. "All right, Orion," he whispered to the quiet room. "Today, the phoenix is reborn. No distractions, just you, the palette, and the flame." He sipped his herbal tea. The taste was delicate, a gentle awakening for the senses, the fuel for creation. He splayed his fingers, feeling the familiarity of the brushes. His mind buzzed with ideas, with contrasting colors and bold strokes. Everything was perfectly arranged for a phenomenal breakthrough. A day well spent. But sometimes our own minds have other plans. Or rather, sometimes the most logical seeming detours lead us furthest from our destination. Part 2. The Slow Unraveling. The first deviation from his mission was a simple, artistic thought. As he was about to dip his brush into a crimson red, an idea flickered. Does this red truly capture the immortal flame of the phoenix? Perhaps I should research the ancient pigments the old masters used to paint fire. It was a small detail, but his artist's pride latched onto it. Research is part of the process, he reasoned with himself. 10 minutes. Just a quick search to get the perfect choice. He opened his tablet. He typed Renaissance techniques for painting fire. The results were a wonderland for a curious soul. He clicked on an analysis of Caravaggio's use of light, then got lost in a digital collection of the Uffizi Gallery, then watched a video lecture on the symbolic meaning of the color red across cultures. An hour later, he wasn't just considering a new pigment. He was contemplating his entire career and meditating on the nature of art itself. He glanced at the clock. 8:50 a.m. Oh, that was more than 10 minutes, he admitted, a vague tension appearing in his shoulders. But it was inspiring. It's important to stay current. He forced himself to close the browser windows and return to the canvas. He took a sip of tea. It was cold. He decided he needed a fresh pot to restart his focus. While waiting for the water to boil, he picked up his phone. Just a quick scroll through Artisan's folio, he promised himself. I won't get sucked in. But the newly posted works were too captivating. A breakthrough light installation. 5 young artists you need to know. A day in the studio of a master. He scrolled, read comments, and clicked on another article. The tangible problem of the phoenix's heart was forgotten, replaced by the abstract, exciting world of art news and artist conversations. When he finally pulled his eyes from the screen, the bright morning light had softened. The clock on the wall read 10:45 a.m. His fresh pot of tea sat there, untouched. A stronger feeling of annoyance surfaced. "This is ridiculous," he said, his voice sharp. "Phone in the drawer. Time to focus." He locked his phone away, a decisive act. He sat down. The blank canvas seemed to mock him. Its silence was heavy, as if it were counting every minute he had wasted. The pressure began to build. The sharp creative energy of the morning had vanished, leaving a dull anxiety in its place. "I've lost my flow," he worried. "I need to get my inspiration back." This is when the mind, seeking to avoid the difficult task, presents a seemingly effective alternative. "You know," he thought, looking around his studio, "these brushes are a bit messy. It's distracting me." In reality, they weren't. They were exactly as they always were. I can't create effectively in a cluttered space. I'll just clean up a bit, just for a moment. This is the seductive charm of productive procrastination, doing useful seeming things to avoid the real work. He started by washing each brush. Then he decided to rearrange his paint jars by their spectral color range. Then he spent an hour wiping down his easel, which hadn't been cleaned in 2 years. 2 hours later, his studio was a model of neatness, impeccably clean. And the canvas remained there, empty. It was now past 1 p.m. His stomach rumbled. Can't paint on an empty stomach was the next excuse. He decided to cook a hearty lunch instead of grabbing a quick bite. While he ate, he watched a documentary about the life of Van Gogh. It's important to understand the context of art, he justified. Lunch and the documentary ended at 3:01 p.m. A wave of drowsiness washed over him. "A 20-minute power nap to recharge," he declared. "It's been proven to boost cognitive function." He leaned back in his armchair, setting an alarm. When it chimed 20 minutes later, he waved his hand to dismiss it. "Just organizing my thoughts," he mumbled. He woke with a start. The light filtering through the window was a pale yellow, the sign of a dying afternoon. He looked at the clock. 5:00 p.m. He had slept for nearly 2 hours. Panic set in. A cold, logical panic. The workday was over. The phoenix's heart was still unformed. Not a single stroke of paint had been laid down. Part 3. The weight of evening. The panic was a shock to his system. It made his heart race and his thoughts scatter. "Okay, I can still do this," he said, hastily grabbing a brush. "I work best under pressure." He stared at the canvas. But his mind, once a creative river, was now a stagnant marsh. It was no longer filled with brilliant images, but with the debris of the day. The article about pigments, the debate on the forum, the perfectly arranged brushes. They were all running in the background, consuming his mental space. He drew a line. It was shaky and lifeless. He wiped it away. He tried mixing a new color. It turned into a dull, soulless brown. Every effort felt clumsy, devoid of feeling. Every brushstroke was a mistake. The emptiness of the canvas was no longer an invitation. It was a taunt. Empty. You failed. Empty. You wasted the day. Empty. It's too late. A message notification lit up his phone. It was from the art gallery owner. The message was simple. "Any updates on the new piece?" To Orion, it felt like a public indictment of his failure. He couldn't answer. He turned the phone screen down. He pushed his chair back and walked to the window. The sky was a gradient of orange and deep blue. The city lights below began to sparkle, a network of bright spots in the dusk. People were returning home, their workdays done, tasks checked off, accomplishments made. Their days were effective. His was simply erased. The silence in the studio was deafening. In the morning, it had been the clean silence of a creative space. Now it was the heavy, static-filled silence of an unresolved idea. He looked at his gleaming brushes, his perfectly arranged paint jars. He had evidence of his day's activities, but they were all monuments to his avoidance. He had optimized everything except the one thing that mattered. He sank into his chair, the one he had been in all day. He didn't turn on the lights. He just sat there in the faint glow of his phone screen, the weight of the unfinished task pressing down on him. It was a strange kind of exhaustion, an exhaustion not from effort, but from the struggle against his own mind. It was the deep, systemic fatigue that comes from running 1,000 pointless processes all day. He had started the day as a creator, ready to solve a complex problem. He ended it as a user with a frozen screen, haunted by the memory of a golden dawn and the bitter reality of a wasted opportunity. He finally understood. This hollow, frustrating feeling, this profound sense of loss for the progress he hadn't made. This was the price of his small, seemingly logical choices. The 10 minutes of research, the quick scroll through social media, the endless workspace customization. They had all seemed so reasonable, so harmless, but they had linked together, one after another, until they had crashed his entire day, leaving nothing but a corrupted file. This is the meaning of a day in vain. Part 4. The lesson in the twilight. As Orion sat there, running a mental diagnostic on his day, he began to understand the root cause. The first word that came to his mind was procrastination. It is the act of delaying a task. For Orion, it was especially insidious because his procrastination disguised itself as work. Cleaning the studio felt effective. Researching new techniques felt like professional development. It was a clever bug in his own mental software, rerouting him away from the difficult task toward easier, more gratifying ones. The second word was regret. Regret is the painful feeling of disappointment over a missed opportunity. The quiet hum of the lamp on his desk was filled with regret. He wasn't just regretting the lost hours. He was regretting the broken state of focus, the lost chance to feel the satisfaction of completing a piece of art. Regret is the error message that appears after a day has crashed. This leads us to our key phrase, a day in vain. The word vain means producing no result, useless. When we say something was in vain, we mean it was unsuccessful. Orion's efforts to optimize his workspace and stay updated on art news were all in vain, because they didn't lead to the one result that mattered, painting the artwork. The entire day, with all its potential, was executed in vain. It produced no meaningful output. And finally, he thought about the wasted opportunity. A clear mind, an inspiring challenge, an entire day dedicated to creation. That was a perfect opportunity. And he had let it slip through his fingers through a series of clicks and minor tweaks. An opportunity is like a fleeting signal. If you don't act on it when it appears, the connection is lost. And as you listen to Orion's story, perhaps you see a parallel to your own goals. Think about your journey of learning English. It is the same. Learning a language is not like painting a complex masterpiece in one sitting. It is the sum of small, consistent brushstrokes. It's the 5 new words you learn while your coffee brews. It's the short podcast you listen to on your commute. It's the one comment you dare to write in English on a video. Every time you choose to browse endlessly instead of doing one grammar exercise, you are creating a small flaw in your progress. Every time you say, "I'll start when I'm more motivated," you are customizing your editor while the real work waits. The feelings of procrastination and regret are universal. They apply to coding, and they apply to learning a language. Every small effort counts, but only if you commit to doing it today. Part 5, A New Sunrise. Orion did not paint that night. His mind was too cluttered. Instead, he did something small, but meaningful. He opened his planner for the next day and created a new entry, assigned only to himself. The title was, "Sketch a Single Curve of the Phoenix's Wing." He understood that the enormous task of complete the heart of the phoenix was too daunting, making it easy for procrastination to take hold. He needed a smaller, clearly defined starting point. He was trading yesterday's overwhelming ambition for tomorrow's simple, actionable task. He was choosing to turn a day in vain into a lesson learned. And what about you? Your journey doesn't have to be a story of regret. You have the power right now to make a small choice. You can decide that today will be a day well spent. Maybe your single brushstroke is learning 3 new phrases. Maybe it's watching one scene of a movie in English. Or maybe it's simply understanding the message of the story. Don't let your grand goals paralyze you into inaction. Start small, but start now. Let the story of Orion be a reminder of how precious every single day is. Let's not let them pass in vain. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this story was not just good practice for your English, but also some food for thought for your life. If this story resonated with you, please like it, so I know it was helpful. Share it with a friend who might also be on a learning journey. And subscribe for more stories that will help you learn English while reflecting on the things that connect us all. Until next time, make today count.